everyone, it's me, Cieli, and I'm here again to try and hopefully bring this YouTube channel to life and bring some nice deck guides for you guys and really talk you through them, explain them, as well as show some gameplay on it. I'm really excited about today's deck. The patch has just been released, the new Gwent patch, and I have been playing a lot of Nilfgaard, let me tell you. No more clogging, none of that. That is not happening. I never played clog, by the way. I swear I did not. But anyway, we're here with a pretty interesting Nilfgaard deck today. Let me tell you a little bit about this deck. It is kind of a blast to the past, if you will. We have the so-called Elder Bears, or a single Elder Bear in this case, with the Stefan Skellen making a comeback alongside of Hefty Helga. It is mainly inspired by the newly changed Cadaverine card. That one is new. It poisons an enemy unit and then spawns a base copy of it on the opposite row. There you can see it and read it if you want to. So I'll tell you a little bit about this deck, the general idea behind it, and I hope you guys have really fun playing it. We're gonna jump into a couple of games after we go through all of this. Alright, hey guys, I'm back to talking a little bit about the gameplay of this deck, how you want to ideally play it, what your strategy is like, and then we're gonna look at the cards, card for card, and go through them and talk about them a little bit as to why they're in this list and what you kind of want to do with them. So yeah, let's start with the overall strategy, which this deck is quite flexible. The coin doesn't matter that much. Obviously going on blue coin can sometimes guarantee you winning the round easier. It depends what you're playing against. Sometimes on red coin you're actually able to push with the amount of tactics, and depending of course on what kind of hand you have. But in general this deck is quite flexible. I would however say that the ideal scenario is you going into a long round 3 with, you know, all of these gold cards. Having a really good hand in round 3 is really the ideal scenario, as well as having a last say. So winning round 1 without spending too many resources, going long round 3 with a really good hand is the ideal scenario for this deck for sure. But fret not, you do have a couple of options. You do have to be observant in round 1. And that means that you have to take a look at your hand and see whether you can beat whatever your opponent is playing, if you're able to guess what you're going up against. You make the assessment of, is my hand good enough to actually win round 1? And if you're saying, oh, definitely not, then it's just better to kind of play non-committal cards and not too many golds, and then give up the round and prepare for the bleed rather than actually try to push for that round 1 win. So after having said that, just being kind of the general gameplay strategy of what to do in each round, let's take a look at the cards and see why all of them are there. Another thing worth noting about when I say you want to win round 1 but you don't want to spend too many resources is Masquerade Ball and Usurper. We come to our higher provision cards immediately. Those are usually cards that you don't want to spend round 1. They're quite committal, they cost a lot of provisions, so usually you want to use them later on in the game for kind of this big power plays, rather than really trying to win round 1 and therefore spending a lot of resources on it. So keep that in mind. There might be situations where you actually want to mulligan Usurper or Masquerade Ball in round 1 if you do have, for example, found your Roderick, and try to focus on being able to go really deep in round 1. So yeah, sometimes even you want to mulligan these cards. Even if it might sound a little bit odd, just keep that in mind. Okay, let's start with our leader. It's Enslave, meaning we can yoink any of our opponent's card that is, because of the amount of tactics that we actually have in this list, 5. So any 5 power unit engine we want to take away with our leader. Don't be scared of using it. We actually do have the inclusion of Anna Henrietta in here that basically replaces our leader with a base copy of our opponent's leader. So you can potentially use your Enslave to win round 1 if you really feel like you're playing against something where you need to secure last say. And then you can play Anna Henrietta later in the game to basically give yourself a new leader. But let's talk a little bit about the Anna Henrietta card in a minute. It's a really interesting one with a couple of interactions and combos to be mindful of. But that is our leader, really useful. Usually you want to target an engine, sometimes something else. Maybe it's just going to be something high power, something that secures winning round 1. It's really your call to make, but I would say usually your target is an engine. The stratagem that we're using is the Crystal Skull. It boosts an allied unit by 4 and it gives it Veil. So we do lose 1 point of boost, but veiling can be really important, especially against factions like Nilfgaard, and locks have also recently been buffed. So locks are definitely a little bit more prominent for every faction. And veiling something like the Hefty Helge or Fire Scorpion can be really nice in round 1 and help you win that round 1 if one of those engines stick. So that's why we're going for the Veil stratagem, the Crystal Skull. Alrighty. We talked a little bit about these 2 cards already, high provision cards, but also gives you a lot of power. The Masquerade Ball has been included because it's a little bit too good not to include. I feel like almost every Nilfgaard deck should probably run Masquerade Ball for that reason. And we also talked a little bit about how we can mulligan these cards in round 1 when we want to play really deep and we don't want to commit too many resources. And concerning other mulligans, I would like to mention that you should think about always having a proactive play. Our deck is quite reactive, especially with all the tactics that we do have here. So just keep in mind that you want to have like a Magni or a Fire Scorpion. Sometimes your opponent can play something really control heavy, and you can think about keeping a double Magni, even like a double proactive play if you really suspect that your opponent is going to deal with that and delete one of your proactive plays. So keep that in mind. You don't want to end up in the situation where you have like no cards to play as your first play in round 3 because oops, you mulliganed all the 4 provision cards like a Magni, then you only have these special cards they can't really play with first say in a round. So that's another thing to kind of keep in mind. Let's move on to Stefan Skellen. He is here because of the Cadaverine. He makes a return. This is somewhat of a blast to the past because he's one of the famed elder bears, Damien and Stefan. He's here to actually guarantee us either a double coup or a double Cadaverine mainly is what you want to look for. It's a really nice combo that you can play, and it really also is so much fun when you hit something nice to copy. So yeah, that's mainly the combo that you want to go for with Stefan Skellen. And another thing that comes with this card, you can notice he's ranged lock. And we have a couple of range locked cards such as Menno and Stefan, meaning that this defender who likes to defend things, that's his job, keep in mind that you want to play him ranged row because of cards like Skellen and Menno. Usually Helge and Ball also want to hide behind a defender to avoid getting heat waved or locked or in any way interfered with. So a lot of the time this deck likes to play its cards ranged, except for Magni. So don't go playing your Magni ranged. Sometimes you want to play really deep into round 1, and then you can get in an awkward spot if you realize you played your Magni ranged, but all of your other stuff also wants to go ranged. So just keep that in mind and play some cards melee that are not really bad if the opponent tampers with them. Make sure you always have space for the ranged locked cards. Cadaverine is another card to be mindful of. You do want to play that potentially copy something that also goes on a ranged row. So be careful of not filling your row with something like Usurper, for example. Another thing to be a little bit mindful of. And Cadaverine is new. Cadaverine is a tactic now, which is really fun, meaning that it works really well with Skeleton. Okay, let's talk about Invocation. Now, this bot used to be a Letho to be able to like copy a Skeleton or a Defender or something like that. But it did change to Invocation because it kind of combos with this card, Anna Henrietta. Anna Henrietta, again, it replaces your leader with a base copy of your opponent's leader ability. And against certain factions, this card is not really great, but it can be with the help of Invocation and Coup, for example. So Invocation, let's say you play against Blaze of Glory, you have a really bad leader, a 0-point leader if you play it with Anna Henrietta, but with the help of Invocation and last say, you can steal your opponent's Yuta. That means invocating it, and then you can actually use the Blaze of Glory leader yourself after doing that. And for example, with Coup, it can be really important to enable your Anna as well. Let's say you coup an engine that your opponent plays if they are playing Syndicate. The faction, usually Anna Henrietta is not really great against Syndicate, but Lined Pockets has been going around a lot, for example, so you get 6 coins but nothing to use them on. Coup on a Philippa, for example, is quite nice, or coup on any spender that your opponent might be playing. Let's move on to Defender here. We talked about that one. He likes to defend your units, and that is his job. That is what he does. He defends all of the important stuff, and again, just play a ranged row. Helge is a really nice card, especially in combination with your tactics. You can think about your mulligan targets and what you want to mulligan. If you find a Helge, make sure you have a hand with a lot of tactics, and so on. They are really good, especially in combination with Helge. You can set up coups, you can set up your leader target with it. It's just a lot of points and a good amount of control to have. And Roderick is great. Usually you want to hope you have him in round 1. If you don't have Roderick round 1, I wouldn't start mulliganing these 2 cards. But if you do end up finding Roderick and like Ball and Usurper, definitely think about mulliganing golds round 1. But he's just a nice shooter for all of your golds to have, so that is why he's there. Amnesty is a card that is suitable by Menno. You can also just have it in your hand. Your Helge can set it up, your Fire Scorpion can set it up. It depends on what you're playing against, and that kind of makes up the target as well. So if you're playing against Syndicate, you want to steal the Flying Redanian. That's a really good steal. Or if you're playing against the Madoc list, you want to steal that. So keep in mind before you use your Amnesty of what it is that you want to take away from your opponent. Because some lists really have those great targets that you want to make sure you find. Alright, and Coded Weapons, just a really good tactic that we have. Just keep in mind it does have Death Blow, which clogs your opponent's deck a little bit. But you might not want Death Blow like a really expensive gold and give that to your opponent again, so be mindful of that. You have the Fire Scorpion, aka Baby Helge. It is doing basically the same thing as Helge for a little bit less points. It does 1 point damage per turn, but it can be really strong as well, and you like to play it alongside your tactics. Now we're playing a ball deck, so we do have the Double Fangs of the Empire to kind of help complete those poisons. Let's say we're in a situation where we can only play 1 Cadaverine, the Fang might be really useful. So we have those included, and Magna Division is there for a proactive play. It can be quite nice. It is a little bit nicer than Nausicaa Sergeant in this deck because it procs every turn, while Nausicaa Sergeant is not that reliable, I would say. And then you have the Van Morlehem Hunters. They can be really good as just locks, so keep that in mind. is there something your opponent is playing that you're like, I need to have a lock for this, let's say a Gesseris or Brewer, something like that, then you might actually want to keep these. Otherwise, I would say they are pretty much mulligan targets. Sometimes also aristocrats for your Masquerade Ball. All right, so I think we've covered the cards of the deck. I think it's best we jump into a game or two and I can show you this deck in action. So yeah, let's go. All right, these games have actually been pre-recorded. I've already played them so that I can do kind of a voiceover here, talk about what is happening in this game and a lot behind my decision making. So that is basically what is going to go on here. Now, we queued into Blaze of Glory. And this is one of those lists where we really want to make sure we have last say, because we're playing against Ace, a really strong finisher unless we have it. So let's take a look at these mulligans. We're mulliganing a Fang there because we don't have a completion poison. And our second mulligan here is a Magni because we already have a proactive play there with the Fire Scorpion. And we are mulliganing the Van Morlehem Hunter as well. And we did draw another tactic, which is really nice. All right, we're playing the Fire Scorpion range throw here. We're giving it a boost. There isn't that much that my opponent can do in order to answer this. Usually Blaze of Glory needs to have a couple of engines set to be able to do those damage pings already on the board. So now that we're going on blue, it's a pretty safe thing to just tactical advantage. And look at that, our opponent is playing a raiding fleet, meaning that the bleeding is not going through. The Veil really paid off here. What are we gonna do next? Let's see, it is the second turn of the game and our opponent has played an on-crate longship here, which is a pretty solid kill. With this tactic that we had in our hand, also adding up a couple of charges for our baby Helge that we have on the board. So we have 2 damage pings now, which is quite nice. Let's wait to see what our opponent is going to do here. Going for that Vabjorn, finding the Blood Eagle here as well. I'm clicking around a lot on the board. Waiting for my opponent to make his move, and he's going for the Brokvar Hunter here. All right, and now we kind of have a choice here between playing either Coup or Amnesty. And I remember thinking here, which one of these do I want to play? I did settle on Coup, I'm pretty sure, just because that is a card that we do get back. So here we're just damaging the Brokvar Hunter and Couing it. Another thing to keep in mind is now that we either steal it with Coup or Amnesty, it's really good to have a Bronze Warrior in our graveyard because we could potentially Coup a Herald. Most Skellige decks do play Herald, and he resurrects a Bronze Warrior from your deck, and if you can set that up when you're Nilfgaard, you can potentially actually play that out yourself. So stealing this Brokvar Hunter is definitely the play. I'm just not sure what to actually use on it or how to do it. But we did go for the Coup here. And now we have double ping. So this time we steal it again, but we just take that Amnesty so that we have a ship of our own. It is quite nice being able to steal an engine there. And our opponent doesn't really have a board at this point, which is really good for us. Let's see what our opponent decides to do. We're going in quite aggressive here, but also if you're noticing, we're not committing that many resources, which is really nice. Another Brokvar Hunter comes out here. We're just gonna go for this battle prep next because it is not very committal, but if you also look at the point gap, there's quite a bit of a point gap, so that's why I'm hovering it there and actually playing it, protecting our baby Helge from any more damage. And taking these pings so that we can hopefully finish that Brokvar Hunter off next turn. But we're definitely threatening a bit of a points gap here, so our opponent has to make the call of what do they play. I see I'm hovering the Yen leader there. I think I haven't seen that effect before. I played this game and I just liked it a lot, so I was like hovering over that one for a little bit. Alrighty then, let's see, what will our opponent go for and how will we answer? So far, it looks really, really good for us here. I'm not gonna lie. This is looking good. My opponent is playing the Nilfgaard, which is actually quite a bit of a commitment here. But still, the point gap here is looking quite big. So now we're kind of making the choice. Do we really spend something more committal, high provision here? Or do we just go for the battle prep, which we are? Just because this allows us to kill that hunter from the ranged row there. And this way our opponent is in quite a bit of a tricky situation. So he actually passes. So this was like the ideal situation of winning round one, really. Like, not playing super committal and just winning the round without spending too many provisions. That's what we're doing here. So now we're going into round two, and look at that, we're actually drawing all of our gold cards, and not all of them, but a lot of them. So we're really happy to see them. Roderick there guarantees another gold. At this point, I'm kind of choosing between bleeding and going for a long round. We basically already have secured last say, which is really good against this deck if we want to pull the invocation and a combination. So that's kind of what we aimed for, and we were able to do that, which is really great. And now we're thinking about, are we gonna just dry pass? Certainly keeping our hand, but the question is, will we bleed or not? And here I think I'm kind of looking at the deck, looking at what I could commit. I could commit the defender here. I could commit the skeleton. But we have a little bit of an issue here. As you can see, ball is still in our deck. And if we do end up playing something like Roderick, we might not be able to find the ball later. So I just take the dry pass here and say, let's go for the good scenario where we have a long round with a lot of gold cards. And hopefully we can find another gold from the next mulligans that we get. So that our Roderick will tutor out either, you know, something more. Whatever is missing, basically. Yeah, so here's the pass. And another good thing about this pass is that our opponent doesn't really get carryover from the Nilfgaard, but he does get carryover by playing this greatsword here. That is also nice for Skellige to kind of set up for their graveyard. Alright, look at that. We found our ball. Really happy about this hand so far. Now, we already have proactive plays. We don't really need that Magni, so we're definitely throwing that away. And I would like to take another mulligan here, just because we have still some golds in deck. And I think we mulligan the Joust here. It's probably a little bit worse than the coated weapons. And we actually do find Helga there, which is really, really nice for us. Alright, our opponent opens with a ship, and this is the fastest leader in the West. Like, this is probably going to be my best leader target in the whole game, so I'm just gonna go and grab it. Right there. Take it, thank you. It's just a great engine to have. And I'm playing the Helga. I'm playing it ranged row because that's where the defender goes. And I'm not doing anything about it because my opponent probably can't answer this Helga in any other way than spending leader. And if they spend leader here, okay, sure, you can do that. That is fine. Alright, so a reactive gutting slash, damaging our own ship. Now we have a really nice defender to play ranged row here. Another good thing about this play is that we get an extra leader charge for Helga with this sequencing, rather than opening with the defender, for example. Alright, let's see what our opponent is going to answer with. There are definitely some plays that I'm considering at this point. You know how I mentioned the Herald? I'm definitely expecting the Herald at this point, unless my opponent didn't draw it. It should come down at some point. So we do have our coup there, ready to go. That is definitely something I'm anticipating here at this point. Let's see, our opponent definitely has to think about what to play here. We have double Helga charge, so we can pretty much get rid of anything. Not anything, but a lot of things. So let's see what he's gonna go play. He does get a Blood Eagle because of the ship being damaged, which is quite nice for my opponent. And here comes the Herald, something that I was looking forward to seeing actually because of the hand state here, and I think I'm very fast in my moves of what to do next here. Yep, we're going for the Helga immediately, damaging the Herald and then cooing it so that we can resurrect our own Brokvar Hunter that we created in round 1. And Harold here is going melee row because he doesn't really need to be protected by anything. We don't have any more warriors, so we don't have to worry about that. And we kill the other Brokvar Hunter with the pings that we got from Hefty Helga here. What is our opponent going to answer with next? He will have to deal with that defender to be able to tamper with anything else that I want to play. So let's see if he can actually do that or not. Sorry about that, my throat's a bit dry. I keep coughing here. Here is the Hjalmar coming down, deleting my defender, which is unfortunate because now it kind of opens up a lot of, you know, damage things for my opponent. He can play like a Skjordal, but we're going for the ball. It's a nice proactive play. We always have the option of poisoning. The reason for why I'm not using that Helga charge there is I'm still thinking, well, what can he do about it? We can kind of just hold it because that shield is really useful to us. And the shield gets pinged away. Now, he plays what I am considering to be probably my opponent's last engine. So I go ahead and just coded weapons there. And I want to use a Helga charge because now it's dies to like a gutting slash, something so simple as that once the shield has been removed. So definitely just want to use some of these removal pings so that my opponent can't ping any stuff. And here comes a Bear Witcher for quite nice value. Those are nice cards. Of course, my opponent did play Hernkadu round 1, so that's quite nice for me. I'm thinking about what to play. I have a couple of options here. I could go for the Skellen. I could wait with him a little bit because he most likely is going to die in this matchup. So I'm going for the Usurper here. What I'm hoping for with the Skellen is that I can sneak him through a little bit later. And this Bear Witcher here is probably one of the tallest targets that my opponent will have besides Yuda. So this is not a bad poison to take at all. So I'm just going for that Usurper and getting some agent value. Skellen, for example, is an agent, so I get an extra point if I play the Skellen after playing that Usurper. And right now, it's a little bit like, not sure what to play. We could play Anna to trigger the last poison. We could also try to get the Cadaverine on the Bear Witcher here, which is why I'm just going for the Skellen to kind of test the waters. Will he live or will he not live? He just comes down here, not protected by a defender anymore. Very likely that he's going down. But we're testing the waters. So the reason I'm considering I want to play this charge, but at the same time I'm like, can I just save it? I don't really get punished for holding it because of the turn sequencing here, so I can hold it for one turn and potentially see if I can use it better next turn. That Jenga might be my poison target, so I probably don't want to go ahead and damage it. He actually plays a Bear Witcher, which is so nice for my Skellen. He doesn't die, and this is a great thing for us. We want to go for that Roderick into the Cadaverine. We could have gotten an extra 2 points for Minnow there, but at this point, I think the game is kind of sealed here. I was a little bit too excited. Just went straight for that Cadaverine. Also poisoning the Jenga. I could have gone for double Cadaverine on the Bear Witchers there, but this is the sequencing I decided to do, and our opponent has had it here. Fair enough, we kind of just got enough points in this round, and that seals the deal. Okay, we're jumping into the next game that we'll play, so let's see how this deck will fare against another matchup. It'll be a curious case. Waiting a little bit. Oh, we found a match. There we go. Let's see what we're gonna play against for this game. All right, my camera is covering it right now, but we are actually up against Syndicate lined pockets, or lined cacklets, if you will. And this is our hand. This time around, we're on a red coin, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to win this round for us, potentially. We're mulliganing Usurper here because we potentially want to play deep this round, so keeping him is maybe not that great. It depends on a couple of things, whether our opponent has drawn the famed Halfling combo with Justice, which is really big and very hard to compete with when you're playing against it. So mulliganing Usurper might not always be right there, but I still took the chance and just went for it here. We also mulliganed the Hunter for the coup there. Just because there's really only one lock target here, which is Cleaver. We don't really care about the Tunnel Drill. And if he plays Cleaver here, my opponent plays Cleaver here, then we're happy about it, and then we just want to pass. We're on red coins, so we don't really need that Hunter for anything. And we do open with the Magna. Here we kind of assess the situation. Our opponent is in fact playing, surprise surprise, the Halfling Safecracker combo wombo with Furgo into Justice for a huge amount of points. So this is what I mean when you have to kind of think, can I win the round or not? It's pretty obvious we can't at this point, so we do play our Baby Helga here. Baby Helga almost always gets removed in this matchup, so it's kind of just a good card to throw out there, which is exactly what we're doing. And now we're playing the Coded Weapons to put this Lamp Djinn back to our opponent's deck for another clogging card, not another, but the first one. A little bit of clog, making my opponent's mulligans potentially a little bit more awkward in round 2. Alright, and as you can see, the point gap is quite big here. We're not contesting with this, so we're definitely just taking a dry pass here. Or not dry pass, but pass after 7 cards and prepare for the bleed. We'd rather save our resources for when our opponent is going to bleed us in round 3. Sorry, round 2. That's the one that comes after 1. Great at maths. Alright, we find our Helga. We're happy about this. Now, let's look at these mulligans. We have a little bit of bug here. One of the cards are blacked out. There we go. Coup is back on track. Alright, here I'm taking a mulligan on the Fang because I decided I don't have a completion poison. I thought I didn't have it. I actually do have the Cadaverine there and no Skellen. So I'm kind of regretting this Fang mulligan in this scenario, but I did take it there. We could have kept it. And the other mulligan there was on Hunter. We had 2 Hunters, and that's a little bit too many. So this is a great amnesty target for us that we just really instantly took here. I talked about this a bit earlier in the video, that against Syndicate, this is really your best amnesty. You deny some carryover from your opponent. It's just a good thing to take, so we took it there. Our opponent plays a Sea Jackal. One thing to be mindful of here is we need to kind of think about threats like Philippa the whole time when we're playing, and what the coins kind of can reach here. So we need to be a little bit careful of what our opponent might steal from us. We do play the Helga here. The reason I'm playing the Helga without any defender is that I'm willing for my opponent to actually Philippa this, because I could just take it right back. But it's a little bit more annoying if my opponent would Philippa a defender, for example. So that's why we're playing this Helga here. It's also a little bit difficult for my opponent to remove because of that shield. So let's see how our opponent answers that. Probably not really able to answer the Helga, but something else is going to come down here. Let's see what it is. Alright. Dip in the Pontar, giving some more coins for my opponent. He's really boosting up that Jackal. That Jackal is getting tall. Our Helga is a little bit in danger now that the shield is gone, so we kind of are forced to play this defender here, even though the opponent does definitely have range to steal my defender with Philippa. We just kind of have to go for it, I believe. And we're using one Helga charge as well to make sure that we get ahead here. All right, here is Cleaver. Now we have a couple of ways to answer this Cleaver here. We have a Hunter, but we have an even better answer in our hand rather than the Hunter, which I'm hovering over there. Now that we see the Cleaver come down, my opponent's still boosting that Jackal, making it super, super tall. But here's the Coated Weapons. It really efficiently answers the Cleaver here. It plays around a Kurt. Hunter is kind of slow in tempo, so the Coated Weapons is just nice to take there because we get a ping for Helga as well. I'm really happy to see that my defender actually hasn't been tampered with at all at this point. And ooh, is this Jackal obnoxious in my eyes. It is just screaming for me to poison it or invocate it or something. I'm starting to regret that mulligan on the Fang earlier. Yeah. For sure. A little bit frustrating to see a super buffed Jackal here. But it is what it is. It's definitely a bit of a tight spot to be in when you're getting bled. You really have to think about your moves. We're keeping the ball. We want to save it. We usually do want to try and take that ball to round 3. It's a huge amount of points if we can. So we have to be a little bit greedy. And here comes the battle prep, it seems, just going on that defender, kind of boosting it out of any kind of Philippa range. It's a couple of points, but it's quite nice to have, and now we can just kind of hold on to those Helga pings here as well and not use them just yet. It is just some solid points, and as long as we have reach, we're fine. Alrighty then, we see another special card come down. My opponent suddenly has some coins again, which is a little bit frustrating for us. Now we really need to think about what we want to play here. So I'm going for the Cadaverine here. My initial thought was I want to bluff a poison, but then I kind of noticed that I have 3 Helga pings here. And these Helga pings actually do get me ahead. It's not like I have that poison completion anyway. So I did decide to go for the Helga pings here as well, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, here they come down. It's just like a nice play. We're playing for card advantage right now. We have 4 cards. My opponent has 3. So yeah, I'm happy about that at this point in time. But here comes a huge threat, which is the Tunnel Drill. It's just a really great card in this new patch. It is so good if you can get that Crown Splitter gap. So we definitely have to get rid of it. We're playing Enslave rather than locking it. Again, Hunter is kind of low in tempo. This leader is a lot more efficient. We kind of have room to play this Anna, for example. Now that we've spent our leader, that seems to be what we're going for here. We play the Anna. She could have gone range throw. She didn't need to go melee here, I suppose. Just a bit of a reflex, but yeah, there she is. And now I can actually use some of my leader charges to get ahead here, because we have an engine that we copied with the Cadaverine. So that's a good thing. And I'm careful not to spend too many leader charges though, just enough to get ahead and see if maybe I'm forcing my opponent to pass at this point. But no, here is another payday, and the Jackal keeps on getting boosted, even though there's a poison on the board, which is not the greatest thing to see. I'm in a little bit of pickle here, not gonna lie. I had to kind of think, do I commit the ball? Which I am going to do, because I feel like it's a little bit too much of a gamble to not play it. At least this way we can trigger the chapter once with Hunter, poison that huge 19-point Jackal, which kind of forces our opponent to pass here, really. Like, what's he gonna do? Just really wants to take that pass, I think. The ball is quite a threat, and probably also the reason for why my opponent bled me in the first place. You usually want to bleed Nilfgaard to get the ball out. But we do have a card advantage, so we're going into round 3 here with a card advantage, which is quite nice. Let's look at what we're drawing. The classic Nilfgaard situation. We're only drawing bronzes. We have a lot of gold still in deck, which is not that great to see. So now we kind of have to work with this and look at what is our worst card. I believe it is Hunter and Joust here. So those kind of have to go. We draw Roderick there, which is really nice. So we have 4 golds in hand, and Roderick, which kind of is, you know, we miss out on 2 golds, and now we just kind of hope that this is enough. We open with Magni. It's nice and proactive, like we talked about earlier. We hope our opponent's not going to remove it. But let's see. Aha, the Magni actually stays alive. I think I was a bit surprised when it did, but our opponent did play a lot of specials. Our second play here is one of the special cards, and I think I'm leaning towards the battle prep, or I think it is the Joust actually. Let's see, I can't really remember. I think it's the battle prep, because the battle prep actually plays for a good amount of points on a soldier, and the Joust can be used offensively. The battle prep can't, so it's kind of the card that we play there. All right. I almost thought about jousting there, but it's definitely Roderick here that is the play. Yeah, I'm looking at my deck and realizing that there's a skeleton, which means we kind of have to Roderick here to make sure that if we draw the skeleton, we can still trigger his order ability in case he survived. But the Magni didn't die, so maybe the skeleton could live. We get the option to take Usurper, which is pretty much like the most points here. So we just take the guaranteed Usurper and say thank you for the points. I'll have them. Even if we, you know, put our own Magni offline, that's fine. We're happy to see Usurper here. All right, and here comes a pretty big Harold. Look at that 13-point guy. Here comes our coup. We're hoping to draw that skeleton, because if we draw the skeleton here, which we did, very nice, we actually get to play the coup for the 3rd time on Roderick, guaranteeing that invocation or the Menno. So we actually get to see a lot of our golds that we thought we weren't able to see earlier. Now we just have to hope that the skeleton doesn't get removed or Philippa'd, but Philippa is actually not enraged here. So our opponent does play the Jacques, very good finisher card. It seems as if my opponent missed the Philippa. So we get to collect the skeleton here to take our last coup on this Roderick. Very nice. We find the invocation. 13-point invocation, not bad at all on this giant gourd. And here we go, tourney joust to finish it off. So yeah, that was another game. I think that went... the previous game was more of like an ideal situation for this deck, and this situation was more of a like a sticky situation that you can be in, but still, you know, come out of it and potentially win despite getting bled in round 2. So it's nice that I got to showcase that for you guys. Now, I still want to jump into one more game. I played a Nilfgaard mirror, or not mirror, but against Nilfgaard, and usually Nilfgaard versus Nilfgaard makes up for some pretty interesting games. So I thought I would showcase that one for you too. So yeah, let's jump into the last game. These are more like against proper ladder decks, the BOG and the lined pockets, and I hope you liked the showcasing of this deck in action, and I hope you guys will try it out. All right, see you in the next one. All right, so we are jumping into the bonus game of game 3 against Nilfgaard. Now, this leader is quite interesting. My opponent is playing Imprisonment, which doesn't say what they're actually playing. I actually have no clue, or I did not have any clue as to what to expect with this. Let's look at the mulligans. We take the hunter here. I don't really know what I'm playing against, but I'm just taking the hunters. They're not that great. And keeping a proactive play might be good because my opponent potentially could remove one of those, and it might be nice to have the other. So I'm keeping the double magnet for this round. Now we're on red coin, so let's see what our opponent is going to play. Alrighty, the first play should be coming down any second now. Here it is. What on earth is my opponent playing? Oh, we see a Menno, and the Menno is playing right into a tactic, and Roach comes out. Well, you all know what this indicates. It indicates cloggers, and when I'm playing against this, I'm like, oh, am I playing against cloggers? Yikes. So winning round 1 is usually quite nice against cloggers, which is why I'm actually playing this defender here. I'm hoping that my opponent cannot really deal with that defender. I can just put the Helga down on the board and kind of go from there and just play tactics. Alright, here we go. That's a Yennefer's Invocation. I was actually really shocked to see this because most of the time cloggers do not play Invocation at all, so I was a little bit confused by this play. Now I'm like not even sure that it is cloggers because of this Invocation. It's throwing me off a little bit. So I'm just going ahead and playing this Magni here, saying maybe it's not clog, I guess. Either way, Magni is a nice proactive play, so I guess we just play it here. There's nothing really to use our specials on yet. So it just seems like a pretty okay play to go for here. Alright, and Eternity Joust comes and destroys my poor little Magni. You can already see me hovering over the next Magni that I'm probably intending on playing. Yep, here we go. Here's the other Magni taken away. Alright, my opponent plays a Viper Witcher, and at this point I think we can decide, alright, I guess it is cloggers after all. And we're in a little bit of a tight spot, of course. We have the Magni on board. He can put it back into our deck. Clogging means putting cards back into your opponent's deck so that they then draw into it. You want to put bad cards back. So this Viper Witcher just put my Magni back, meaning we draw into a Magni next, which isn't great. So therefore, I just play the Helga here, saying that it trades for a leader charge, which is fine. That's half of my opponent's leader. This Helga probably isn't going to survive anyway without that defender. I'm playing one more card here, which is a little bit risky. We're clogging my opponent as well. We're putting that thinning card back into my opponent's deck with the coated weapons. It's definitely a little bit risky. As you can see, my reach is very limited with the cards that I have in my hand right now, so I'm kind of hoping that my opponent does play another card here. And my opponent's definitely thinking about it, not sure whether to do that or not. I think if my opponent passed here, we definitely have to think about what we're gonna play. We do have a leader, of course, and 2 cards to play from our hand. But here comes an assassination, and after this we can definitely count and see that we do not have reach anymore after this play. So we do take the pass. It's definitely gonna be a pass here. We just cannot make up for these points, and without going down cards, and even going down a lot more cards than we would want to. It's fine going down a card sometime against cloggers if it means you're winning round 1, but here we can't do that. We probably can't even play our whole hand and get enough points, so we're gonna take the pass here. And probably prepare for a little bit of a bleed round 2. Usually the clog decks like to bleed you, go for that short round with a Colgrim. Of course, Colgrim is a little bit changed now. He has Adrenaline 1, so you have to play him a little bit later, which is a nice change for that, in my opinion. As well as the Witcher mentors have got a slight nerf. They are back to Adrenaline 2, which is very nice. Alright, so our mulligans was the Magni there. We don't really want our opponent to clog us more, so we want to mulligan that bronze target from our opponent away, and rather just keep all of our specials, and then we mulligan the battle prep because it's bad without a soldier. We did draw into Menno, which is a soldier, so that's nice. Alright, we can see our opponent is playing the defender that he stole from us with the invocation here. We need to damage it because we need to get through the defender. We just need to get through it to deal with cards like Colgrim and such. The nice thing about my opponent's leader is I can actually copy it with Anna and then use that lock on a Colgrim. Alright, here comes my opponent's Helga. So at this point, we have to kind of look at what our plays are. We're aiming to amnesty the defender and then take the Helga back with the leader. But we do have to play this Joust first and hope that my opponent doesn't have anything to boost that defender with so that we can actually complete the play. But the defender is just too low power to actually leader there after we damage it. So it's better to kind of sit and hold this amnesty plus leader here, which we're really happy to take right now. My opponent also plays this Ciri. As you can see, we have Joust in our hand, and this kind of immediately enables a Joust plus Helga charges on Ciri. So we can remove that carryover pretty easy with the state that we have right now. My opponent's thinking about passing here. It's even cards right now, so if he passes, it means I have to play one more card. And if he continues playing, yeah. The pass is there. I was a little bit surprised by this pass. It's a little bit risky pass because of that Helga and because of me having one more Joust. But I can see my opponent just didn't want to go down a card there and risk it, so he did take the pass. Alright, so we're moving on to round number 3. We're drawing a little bit better here. We see Usurper and Coup, which is kind of nice. But as well, we have Roderick in deck still. So that is why we're mulliganing this Coup. We don't really have a Coup target. And if we do end up getting Roderick, we can always tutor out the Coup with the Minnow. And yeah, we also took the mulligan on the Hunter. It's probably not really needed. It's a slow tempo lock that we don't really want. This time around, I'm saving the Fang for a poison completion on my Cadaverine potentially. We do draw Skellen here, but he's very likely to die or get locked against what my opponent is playing. Nilfgaard usually has a lot of control options. So what we want to do with Skellen is kind of hold on to him and just try to sneak him through as like a second to last play. That's our best chance of actually making sure that he would go off. Otherwise he definitely might not be in trouble. I mean, might be in trouble. So we want to open with Ball here. It's our proactive play, really. That's why we take the Ball there. Shouldn't get heat waved in this matchup. I mean, we know it's Ciri. A Ciri Nova deck, so it definitely does not get heat-waved here. And a Coded Weapons comes out, meaning we have to kind of find a proactive play. But we do have the Minnow into a battle prep. Again, we kind of established that without Roderick, the Coup is really bad, so we don't even need it in this matchup. So we can just go for that battle prep for 6 points and 2 armor, which is quite nice to go for. Now our opponent has to answer some way. The cards that my opponent probably is going to play this round is like Colgrim, Mentor. Here comes the Cynthia in round 3. Usually when you play Clog, you want to draw that Cynthia a little bit earlier than round 3. But still, it gives a point for Colgrim. Alright, so we just play the Usurper here and trigger our Ball for 1 chapter on the Fang. What I'm kind of anticipating, honestly, here is my opponent having his own defender because they usually do play defender. So I just want to trigger this, and Cynthia's an okay poison target if it goes off. And here is the defender, just as expected. The nice thing is we can definitely complete the poison on the defender now because we saved that Fang. So now I'm really happy about not mulliganing away the Fang. And after the Fang, we can play Anna to get opponent's leader ability instead, which is really nice. Anna also triggers the Ball. Obviously, she's an aristocrat, so it's a pretty nice turn to get Anna. This also enables a potential lock on my opponent's Colgrim when they play it. And my camera is covering it a little bit, but the Colgrim is not big right now. I think it's like a 4.5 point Colgrim at this point. So even then, Colgrim isn't that much of a threat. I'm kind of looking at my graveyard here to see what the mentors are going to boost by. And I believe our highest provision card right now is actually Invocation in deck. So the mentors only boost by 9. I was a bit shocked by the leader coming down on the usurper there, but turns out my opponent also plays Anna. So he just wanted the 3 points of damage instead. And now we play Anna, trigger the ball, and poison the defender. We actually got our enslave back now that my opponent copied our own leader ability, so we get to use our own leader ability twice. And my opponent, of course, has a worse enslave than me because they don't play as many tactics. So this is very good for us that he actually used that lock leader. It means Skellen is probably pretty safe here. Alright, here comes the Artorias into the Viper Witcher. Let's see how big it is. I think it is going to be 9 points. Yep, and here comes Skellen. My opponent also uses their own leader, so Skellen is pretty safe here. We get the double Cadaverine. My opponent kind of realizes he can't deal with that Skellen. I guess he had, I would expect Colgrim and like Mentor there. So yeah, that happened. And we're really happy about that game. It was quite a funny one, but it's kind of to demonstrate these kind of wild combos that you can get with this list. And I really think you guys will enjoy it. So yeah, I would love to hear if you guys manage to pull off any crazy combos like that, like double Cadaverine plus Anna, and those kinds of plays are really fun to make. All right, I think that's it for our last game. Alright, thank you so much guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the games. I hope you'll enjoy the deck. I really hope you try it out yourself. And please let me know what you think about the video. I will be uploading a bit more frequently now, so I hope to see you guys for the next one. I'll link my stream that you can watch me play live. I'll link a written guide about this deck as well. So yeah, any thoughts are much appreciated. Thank you so much. I hope you liked the video, and I will see you for the next one. Bye.